that's what makes the Web3 space so beautiful. Is I think historically you like validate an idea, find product market fit, and it's more sequential.
Today, I'm very excited to be joined by Evan Luza. If you don't know who Evan is, you got to know Evan. He is the co-founder of Alpha Labs, a studio that launches Web3 products. He's also the co-founder of Cool Cats and creator of the Boy NFT Collection. Evan, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Good to be here. Good to be had, from the metaverse to here. It's nice.
Yeah, I am super excited to have you today. Evan and I are going to explore what it takes to build a sustainable community with NFTs. But before we go there, Evan, I would love to hear your story. How'd you get into NFTs? How'd you get into Web3? Start wherever you want to start.
The year was 1854. No, I'm just kidding. I was working at Microsoft back in 2017, and a friend of mine started to introduce me to like Ethereum and Chainlink at the time, and just in cryptocurrency in general. And as a native collector and technology enthusiast, I was intrigued. I didn't necessarily understand, but then we started talking through the use cases of interoperability and transparency in the blockchain and tracking, and how the implications for implementation. So that intrigued me. So I had been a crypto native since 2017, and then a few years after, I think in 2019 maybe, I started working at Bitcoin.com, and I did the rebranding over there. So I was very, very deeply entrenched in the.
What is Bitcoin.com for those that don't know what that is?
So Bitcoin.com is owned and led by Roger Ver. Some people call him Bitcoin Jesus. He perpetuates Bitcoin Cash, or BCH, and the Bitcoin.com, the website, is mostly like a news source and a mobile app that they have for a mobile wallet for Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. But their whole vision is just to perpetuate the adoption and implementation of Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. So I was deeply entrenched with the nerds the whole time. But it's great because I think in both NFTs and crypto, I think the recurring conversation that is brought up often is like user experience and usability, and how visually appealing and accessible and easy to use a lot of these products and brands are. Because so much of this tech, whether it's blockchain and Bitcoin or NFT and Web3, it comes from this place that's like deeply technological understanding. But then when it's brought to market, or for normies, it's like, oh, it's easy. Here's this 20-step process that if you mess up any step along the way, you might lose all your crypto, but come on in. So I was fighting the good fight of trying to make the brand more accessible and relatable and palatable. So that's what Bitcoin.com is all about.
Yeah, and we probably should mention that you have a background in design, right? So were you working in the creative department for them, or what were you doing for those guys?
Yeah, so and I'll do a little bit of jumping back and forth. So my background's in design. I went to design school in Georgia State and Atlanta, and that's where I met Klon, actually, who's the creator of Blue Cat, who I was a year above him. But yeah, so I went to art school, I went to design school. I have a background in branding and marketing and just synthesizing, visual communication. So that was just right up my alley, to work over there.
Yeah, so keep going. So somewhere along the line, you guys decided to launch this Cool Cats collection. When?
So I left Bitcoin.com. I was working for this cloud company they're out of Australia. They're called Megaport. I was a senior brand designer over there. And that was cool. That was interesting. It's really interesting working on time zones where they're like 8 to 12 hours ahead of you, but that's a whole other thing. But anyways, they say luck is when preparation meets opportunity. So I was probably a year to 2 years in at Megaport as my senior brand designer role. And then through crypto Twitter, or I don't even know what the news source was, but the Bored Apes started minting, and the apes are in the feed, and people. This was like the first. I think CryptoPunks is sort of like the OG. I would equate CryptoPunks to like the Bitcoin of NFTs. Like they're the first ones to do it. And I think for the most part, I think the general space would agree that Bored Apes were sort of like the first ones after that were just like Ethereum is the cooler younger brother than Bitcoin. Like Bored Apes were sort of the cooler younger cousin than from CryptoPunk. So I saw the apes mint. And as someone who got in the space in 2017, who saw the stickiness and the implication, the potential upside and crypto, I saw this happen right in front of me, and I'm like, okay, I don't necessarily innately understand why everyone's freaking out about these illustrations of these monkeys. Like the art's pretty cool, and I'm just beginning to wrap my head around like the tokenization, because my traditional crypto brand is like cryptocurrency. So the second you have to sort of like divorce yourself from that ideology of like, so now these tokens have pictures attached to them, and like there's very different supplies, and there's like these utilities and this and that. So I saw the apes meant, and the curious collector in me, I was raised off of Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon cards and trading and collectibles. So there was something in me that was like, this is a thing. Like I don't necessarily know how it's going to play out or how sticky it's going to be, but there's something here. So I didn't mint an ape, unfortunately, because I still didn't really understand. But that to me validated the market opportunity to, why don't I try to launch an NFT collection? So after seeing Bored Apes, I had the idea of like, okay, I'm an entrepreneur. I know the tech well enough that I can figure out a cool brand, a cool offering, and a nice product that looks enticing to users, because my background's in design and branding and illustration. So like I know how to make a thing that looks good that people want. So I had the idea to come up with sushi pets, which was these, and I'll send you like some pictures later so you can drop it on the screen or something. But there are these anthropomorphized little cute sushi characters. So I lived in Japan, so I was around, when I was working at Bitcoin.com, I lived in Japan. So I was around a lot of this like kawaii, plush, cute, just like anything, a bowl of ramen or a bubble gum, like just put a cute face on it. It's like, and it's cute. It feels good. So I was like, all right, let me come up with sushi pets. It'll be this like Pokemon pixelated influence thing. And I started scaling the brand. I was working with a pixel artist. I got the Twitter parked. All I needed really was a Solidity developer. And then I was also needing some design help. So I reached out to Klon, who was at the time, he was doing motion graphics. And in the Twitter space, in the feed, a lot of the content that was out there was mostly like static imagery. And I was like, I think what would be most captivating and enticing is if we get some like animated GIFs and animated content advertising sushi pets. So I reached out to Klon. We were like, best buds back in the day, but he was not into crypto. He didn't know the difference between, a real chain and the blockchain. So like I sort of sat him down. I was like, all right, here's the market opportunity. This is Bitcoin. This is Ethereum. These are NFTs. Here's these monkeys. Here's what I see. Like, I'm trying to do this thing. Do you want to help me do this? So it started to click with him, and it was like, we were compadres in arms, and we fought the fight together. So we were both building the Sushi Pets brand. We had all the assets, the renders, was working with a 3D artist to make these cool holographic cards. It was 90% there. Like everything was looking really crispy. And at this point in time, back in 2020, maybe 2021, there was not an abundance of Solidity devs. It was slim pickings. Like it was a very new and emerging market, and it's not oversaturated in a good way like it is today. So you're sort of just out there on, Fiverr or Upwork or Twitter being like, is anyone a Solidity developer? And it's just like crickets, they're like, oh, my friend's cousin's friend is. And you're like, and it's just, you can't find it. You couldn't find it. So we found one guy through a friend of a friend who was a Solidity dev who was going to do the smart contract for us. And at this point in time, if you could connect a smart contract to a button on the front end of a website, like that's very impressive, because the only people who had done that previously was like Bored Apes and maybe a handful of other projects that no one's ever heard of. So we had the missing piece that we needed, but then of course in a typical crypto fashion, I don't want to say he rugged us, but the dev was like, I'm not really interested in this anymore. I'm going to do this other thing. So me and Klon had just put our blood, sweat, and tears synthesizing this brand that like looks really good. It's nice on the eyes. It made sense to us in a lot of ways, but we didn't have the missing piece to get it over the line. So we're very slumped because like we're artists. We're like tech generalists, but we're not specialized in that way. So we can't just learn Solidity. Like we're just, overwhelmed with that. So we're pretty bummed about it. And then I think it's funny because I'm the one who introduced Klon to like, crypto Twitter and Web3 and all this. And then he ended up finding in his feed a project called Fatacorns, which it's like fat unicorns. And they're these pixelated little fat unicorns. We joined the Discord. We're probably like, 10 people in there. We were probably like the second or third in there. It's like, there's not much activity going on in the space. So we reached out to those devs who happened to be the other co-founders of what would be Cool Cats after, which was Tom and Link. And we're like, hey guys, first of all, like the collection looks great. The website, because their minting experience was really cool. It was a really well-designed website. It felt very like Nintendo-esque, and it actually worked. You could hit the button and the thing minted. We're like, these guys made the thing. We need these guys. So we reached out to them and we're like, hey, here's what we've done. Here's Sushi Pets. It's 90% there. We just need the last 10% from like the tech side of things to just get this over the finish line. If you guys could help us. So they were into it for the most part.
But let me guess, they didn't like sushi.
No, not quite. That would have been I'll have to tell the story that way. But I they wanted to be more equal collaborators for what we were delivering or what we wanted to deliver. So they're like, since you guys got it 90% there, how about we sort of go back to the drawing board and with a fresh set of eyes, like how can we all sort of collaborate together and equal parts launch a new thing? So it was a like, okay, let's put Sushi Pets on ice. We at least have some collaborators and partners now that we can work with to actually deliver something. So it was a new challenge, but it was refreshing in that way. So the task at hand was for me and Klon are thinking like, so what's the thing then? Sushi Pets doesn't exist anymore. Let's just not think about that. Bored Apes is this generated PFP collection where it's like, a similar character and it's stylized a bunch of different ways. So we're just thinking through this. And then Klon had the epiphany because he was just sitting on his couch and just for some context about Klon, he had been previously going by the moniker the Cartoonist, which is a play off the cartoonist. So he had his character Blue Cat that you see here for probably since like 2015, 2016, maybe before, give or take. So anyways, he had been working on this character and he had a poster of Blue Cat on his wall. This is before PFPs, before NFTs. It was Blue Cat in a bunch of different, and I'll send you this picture later as well. It's Blue Cat in a bunch of different outfits, like a ninja, a pirate, dressed up as a dog, dressed up as this, as this. So he's sitting on his couch looking at his poster and he's like, wait a second, like Blue Cat, let's bring Blue Cat to the blockchain. So it was just one of these like, aha, like, of course, it was looking at us the whole time kind of thing. So that's how it started. We worked together. So he's the illustrator and the artist behind Blue Cat, but we worked together on the brand and coming up with the assets. And he's also colorblind, which is ironic as an artist because so many times it's like, is this pink or is that? And I'm like, no, this is let's use that color. So we ended up making the collection, and then Tom and Link's background is he's a really kick-ass front end developer. So you give him a mock-up for a website and a web page, and he'll just make it in a day, and it's like incredible. And Tom's like a whiz with smart contracts and Solidity. So we just had like everyone, I was holding down marketing and branding. Klon was on the art. Those guys. So we were all like working simpatico, and it was great. So we launched the collection, and at this point in time, there was a significantly more speculation in the space than there was like demand. I think that we sort of caught the market at this really opportune time where we took what we perceived to be like a really original, authentic idea, which was Cool Cats, which was sort of a healthy mix between cute and cool in a space that didn't really exist yet. If you look historically at like crypto land, I think a lot of it has this sort of like undertone of like degen vibes where it's like basement dweller, like anonymous, sort of like, on the fringes. And Blue Cat is very like, he is you. Blue Cat is Klon. He's relatable. He's emotional. He has feelings. Your kid might like him. So we introduced this like cute, cool aesthetic to the market, and it stuck. And I think that if it weren't for Cool Cats, I think a lot of collections that exist in their current form today wouldn't exist or look how they do. So
cool. Yeah, we're going to get back to the launch in just a minute, and it's a fascinating story. We'll get into a lot more into it in just a minute. But 10,000 collection, right? Is that how many?
9,999 because cats have 9 lives. So that was
okay. So one shy of a 10K collection.
Yeah.
And we're going to get into this a little bit. And I love the backstory. It's fascinating how many people start with they think it's going to be this, and then ends up being something totally different.
Oh yeah.
There are people listening right now, creators, entrepreneurs, and marketers that are skeptical perhaps as to why they should consider launching an NFT collection. And I would love you to speak to them as to why this is something that maybe they ought to consider.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because the Web3 space is so undefined and lawless, but it's a double-edged sword. Because there are no rules and because it's unknown, there's a lot of opportunity for like exponential growth and stickiness. But in that same vein, there's also equal parts speculation. So as someone, I'm overly, ambitious and eager bullish on I think the space has much more potential. And I think the trajectory of media as we know it is going to become increasingly more tokenized. So for me, I think what's particularly interesting and captivating about why Web 2, Web 2.5 or pre-Web3 company might want to even introduce an NFTs is because I think the opportunity at hand that presents itself within the NFT space is it created this more bi-directional sense of your holders, your community feel significantly more entitled in some ways, which can be a good and a bad thing, but it also results into a lot more of an authentic and real and deeply rich connection. So like, pre-Web3, pre-NFTs, you're on Twitter and Instagram and you're following a brand and they're sort of trickling content to you that's like, it's one directional, it's like they're letting you know what it is and you're consuming it. But from the advent of NFTs and Web3, it's this new sort of platform where the brand does something or the collection does something and the community is like, well, what about this? How about this? Did we consider this? And, sometimes it's a lot of noise, but other times it's very like live feedback. And it's sort of, you have this captivated audience who's saying, hey, I'll be more interested in what you're making if you consider this thing, or how did you arrive here? So it's a much more like collaborative down from like the brand to the community sense, which can be, you have to have your own expectations of managing that. And, everyone's got an opinion. That doesn't mean everyone has a good opinion. But I think it's this next wave of belonging. And I think like consumer engagement, I feel, because it's much more, it feels much more sincere. You feel much more seen and heard. And I think that's why people identify with PFPs in the first place, because they feel like they belong in this community. I can express my opinion in this community. I might be able to even have direct access to a founder in this community and let them know my pains or frustrations or happiness or ideas. So it feels like a much more like collaborative amoeba of just like the latest wave of media, if you will.
Yeah, talk to us about the collector mindset too, right? Because obviously you experienced a little bit of this when you were over in Japan. Like maybe not everybody understands this concept.
Yeah, I mean, humans have been collecting since the dawn of time. Rocks, stamps, coins, Beanie Babies. Like so to me, it's just sort of a no-brainer. Like technology is only increasingly becoming more and more robust and relevant. Everyone's got a smart computer in their pocket at any point in time. Like, and also this day and age is so like to go to Spotify or Facebook or Amazon or wherever, and you have 100 different accounts for everything. Whereas the advent of like crypto and MetaMask is like one wallet to rule them all. You have this one, you connect once and you have access to all these things. So, yeah, that might have derailed from the collector thing, but I think natively people want to collect just because it's like an individuality. It's an identity thing. We all don't want to rock the same profile picture or have the same car or have the same shirt. It's like it's how to choose to represent ourselves, and those things that represent ourselves are tethered to a community that also stands for other things as well. So it's this very like amorphous, robust ecosystem, I think.
Okay, I got a couple of shotgun questions, and then I want to dig in on some stuff. When did you actually launch, and how much was the NFT when you launched?
It's all a blur. I think it was July 2021, which is like a year and maybe a year and a half ago, maybe a year.
That's right around when VFriends launched, I would imagine, right?
It could have been. And that's the crazy thing too, is like it's so easy to just get so laser focused, locked in on what you're doing that you can't be everywhere all at once. There's so many people come up to me and they're like, oh, did you see this collection? I'm like, I'm just cool cat. It's like, I don't know.
So how much was it? Do you remember what?
So we started the mint at 0.06 ETH, and we minted a couple hundred out. And then, there's rumblings through Twitter and our Discord starts filling up. And then the people are like, guys, if you drop this to 0.02, I think it was, or 0.025, maybe 0.02, they're like, this thing's going to sell out. So we had just put all these weeks and months work into getting this thing right down to the smart contract. We opened the gates, and then all of a sudden it's just like, let's make changes. It's just like, like nothing is easy. So Tom had to retreat, and at this point in time, it's like 100 people in Discord voice chat, just being like, oh my God, I just reeled this cat. It's like, it's like a high school varsity football final game or something. People are just like, endorphins are going crazy. People are just like, well, this cat, oh my God. There's no rules. It's just like an undefined land. So we we knocked the mint price down from '06 to '02, and then we minted out over the course of like maybe the next like 6 hours, and we didn't anticipate, like, in the best case scenario we minted out and then we'd figure out what's next. But people fell in love with the cats, and people fell in love with Klon's story and the underdog story of not only did he have this character that existed before NFTs, he never gave up on him. And he's talked about before, like, you know, as an artist, you have those struggles of, it's hard to create sometimes when you feel like underappreciated or undervalued, but it was sort of this, like, you know, adrenaline stimulus boost to his passion and creativity as an artist that like revalidated this demand for this character that he had been working on. So it was very, very invigorating. But then we were playing catch up of like, well, what do we do with the brand now? Like we didn't remotely expect to have any of this traction that we ended up having.
Yeah. So let's zoom in some of the story here. So it was the summer of 2021, let's say July-ish.
Yeah.
Ethereum was like $3,700 back then. And you brought it down to 0.025. That's about $100 US, which was the secret price point, it seems, to really kind of sell this thing out. But what I want to know is, like, what was your guys' launch plan? Like, you said you have a background in marketing, right? And
yeah.
Like, you know, like, just bring me into like the room where the four of you guys are brainstorming how we're going to do this. I mean,
yeah,
you know, like
it was a catch-22 because like it's difficult to try to synthesize and materialize what would then be referred to as like a roadmap when you're like, we might bake this thing and try to sell the cake at the sale and like no one cares. So it's you don't want to preemptively put all this brain power of like, okay, we're going to sell out, and then when the money raised, we're going to do this and this. So it was this sort of like real time, like, oh my God, we sold out. Like, what do we do next?
So you weren't even planning to sell it, is what you're saying? Because
like we were like, that was best case scenario. It was like
sold 100 originally. So does that mean your original plan was off and you realized it was too expensive, or what was the deal?
No, we sold a few hundred, and that's a whole other pain in the ass because since we dropped the mint price, we had to then retroactively give the people who did mint at 06, we had to drop them free cats, and it was just like, just a tracking nightmare. So like we did it right by everybody, but it was just like, oh my God, like the wallet tracking and this and that. But yeah, it was that's sort of the beauty of the Web3 space is it can lend itself to you in a way where the spotlight shines on you and you have the opportunity to like build this Mach speed flying spaceship in real time transparently, and people are like, I'm rooting for you, but also what's the next move? And you're sort of like, it's great that you guys like us, but like help us figure out what you guys would like to see. You know, like the sort of the safe stepping stones are merch, your Discord, town halls to sort of get feedback of what people would like to see and what people would like from the brand. But it's sort of this like minting out a project is the validation, and then upon that it's this like incubation phase to some degree of, okay, like how would you guys like to see this scaled out? And also we had to use our own due diligence as as branding and marketing guys and design guys of like, you know, we don't want to make a thing for people that like, we don't want to make a thing we're not passionate about, you know, like it doesn't necessarily make sense to put blue cat on something that we're not into. So we started thinking about like a game or animated content, or, you know, what's the next trajectory? We sort of had to like reverse engineer how do we scale the brand? How do we reach as mass audience as we possibly can? So it's this dichotomy of, as we're getting awareness, we're then getting more intrigue from external parties who have money or have, you know, want to be involved, want to join the team. It's like, do we need a CEO now? Like, we have money, let's actually scale and grow this thing. So it's this sort of like real-time collaborative experience and defining your market fit. It's goofy because it's like, but that's what makes the Web3 space so beautiful is I think historically you like validate an idea, find product market fit, and, you know, it's more sequential. But here in the metaverse and Web3 land and whatever you want to call it, there's new rules every week, every month. There's new protocols, new implications, new mechanics that it's just like, oh, this is a new ingredient in the mix. This one doesn't exist anymore. So,
yes. So a couple quick questions. I was just running some back of the napkin math on this. Today, there's about 5,500 holders in this 9,999 community. I don't know I'm guessing back then people bought multiples because it was not that expensive, right?
Yeah.
My guess is you had thousands of people that were inside the community.
Oh yeah. I mean, the Discord's got like over 100,000 people in it still.
So how did you guys even get to the point in the beginning to get that many? Did the project just kind of take off because there wasn't a lot of projects back there?
I think it's like, okay, when you look at Hello Kitty, right? Whether you are into Japanese animation or cute things, you look at a character like Hello Kitty or Pikachu, and you're just like, something's here. Like you don't even need to be an art appreciator or connoisseur, and you're just like, there's something behind this. And I think, obviously, I'm biased because I'm an artist and I'm just passionate about pixels. But I think that the fact that Klon has like a piece of his soul and has spent so many years of blood, sweat, and tears synthesizing this character that's actually him, I think a lot of people saw the cats for the first time and they're like, yes, this is art, but like this is like a very personal embodiment, interpretation, synthesization of someone's like life work. Like that's at least how I think it connected with a lot of people. And back to what I was saying previously too, like the crypto space as a whole had historically been more of a anonymous degen, like we don't do cute and cool over here. Like this is crypto, like crypto, and I think we brought this thing where we're like, listen, we can still be on the blockchain and we can also be cute and cool and be nice to each other. Like, how's that? So it's like who wants a slice of this pie? Like it's delicious. So it was hard not to like fall in love with. I think it was very sticky in that way.
So you guys minted it out. According to my math, you probably made just shy of $1 million on the mint. And, after the mint was successful and you realized this thing was starting to like go up in price, what was the discussion from a business perspective? Like you mentioned, should we hire a CEO? Like it sounds like this was exactly what you had hoped it would be, right? This was really successful and it was going places. Like at what point did you decide, okay, we got to figure out how to make a business out of this thing?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think because we lowered the mint price, it was more like 400-ish K we made.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. But then also royalties were good at that time too, because the volume was booming. So yeah, it was just this case of like, all right, we did this thing. None of us have like business executive experience before. As much as we were like, yeah, let's try, like give it the college try. It was a sort of like, let's take a step back and like, we need a team. Like we had been just busting our butts and like not sleeping, not, just locked in. And we're like, this is not sustainable. Like, yes, we made a good chunk of money that we can do something with, but we need to get the right folks in the mix. So we toyed with the idea of whether we were going to accept some venture money, whether we were going to do it ourselves. So we ended up accepting some venture money, which gave us the treasury enough to be able to bring on a proper team. And then that was a struggle within of itself too, because we firsthand experienced the scaling too fast. It's just like, we need this. You get them up. Just like all hands on deck. Go. And then as time goes, we're like, okay, there's too many people here and not enough like syncopation. We're not all swimming in the same direction.
How many people did y'all hire with that money?
We had at one point in time, I think we had like 32 employees.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it was like, we had just been born, and it's all, we're just like freestyling in real time, this like go to market strategy, like we're just like, oh, what about a project person? Like, oh, we need this community person. Oh, what about, it's like, okay, sure. Yeah. And then it was just also go. And we were on the, it was
Can you talk to us a little bit about the pros and cons of taking venture capital? Because
I mean, on the one hand, you have additional resources, but then there's no right or wrong answer. It's like, I think that if I don't think anyone needs to take venture money if you have your own funding and you have a well-designed, bespoke trajectory of how you would like to execute and follow and plan against. However, I think venture money, if it's also tethered to additional insight and resources. So like where we took our venture money from, it came from a background where these guys know how to scale. These guys have touched World of Warcraft. These guys have touched brands that have, IPO'd. So they have this track record and continuity, and like, they're not in the interest of placing any bets that they don't think that there's significant or potential upside. So I think it a lot of it boils down to like how it's not even a confidence thing. It's like how qualified and capable are you with yourself or with your own team to like thread the needle and get it to where it needs to be? Or are there people who are specialized, whether they're advisors or have business background or whatever, who are just like, I can pick up the phone and talk to XYZ and like, we'll just get this plugged in right now. So I think it depends, you know, it's a whole big old variable, but it made sense for us. And you know, I don't think we would have done it a different way because of the venture guys being involved. You know, we managed to secure a partnership with Animoca last year. We just announced this Futureverse partnership as well. And our current CEO, he came from Disney, so he's got a whole Rolodex of connections up his sleeve as well. So I think if we were to do this by ourselves, and it's not to say, you know, we've seen plenty of collections out there as well too that start scrappy and they end up just hitting all the right moves along the way, and then boom, they're, you know, Nike buys them or something like that. So it's just, I think it's all boils down to the mitigation of like your risk tolerance and like how much workload do you want to attempt to sustain yourself versus how much additional insight and, you know, reinforcement would you rather have to help you move the ball, you know?
Yeah. And before I get to my next question, I should have disclosed earlier that I do own 2 cool cats.
There we go.
Which I really like. I want to talk about the community side of it. Obviously you mentioned already, you got this massive community, right? So let's talk about like whatever you can about how you built that community and how you kept the community kind of engaged.
Yeah.
You know, you kind of hinted that there's some challenges, but you know, you don't just get 100,000 people in a Discord group overnight.
Yeah. I mean, so a lot of it's sort of cheesy to say, but in some ways the community builds itself. So like from the marketing perspective, it's our job to present the brand in this way that's like, here's what we stand for. Cool Cats is inclusive and accessible. It's not exclusive and supreme type of, you know, like you have to have a yacht to join. It's very like, come one, come all, you know, like join our Discord, whether you have a cat or not. So I think because of our word choice and our brand positioning, we were significantly more like inviting in that way. And the beautiful thing about the Web3 space is a lot of I would say the majority of folks in here are builders and innovators and artists and collaborators, and they want to make things. So like you'll see awesome fan art or people will just join the community and be like, I build apps. How can I build an app? Like, I love this project. You know, my daughter loves my cat. She made these cupcakes and so it's just this like symbiotic circle of we get more vigor and enthusiasm because we do these challenges of like community fan art or, you know, DIY Cool Cat stuff, and people will make a custom toy or like a book or anything. And people are just increasingly impressed by like, you guys did this came from this community. I want to be part of this community. So it's like this, it's sort of like Boy Scouts in some way, like the ideology of it. I think it's like you have certain values that you stand for and that are perpetuated. And those values are very enticing to people that makes them want to continue to contribute to it. And then there's also the other side of it as well, where people are like, I'm in it for the art, but then the people just want to make money flipping things, which anything that's related to crypto is always going to be tethered to the opportunists, which isn't right or wrong. It's just sort of like you're going to have people who are in it for the financial incentives, and you know that's they're part of the community, but they're not as like fundamental, I think, to the thread of the community of what really makes a community what it is.
You mentioned that a lot of people in the community would take the cats and do fun stuff with them. What did you guys do as far as IP rights and stuff like that? How did you manage that?
Yeah, so we have non-exclusive IP rights. So if you go to the coolcatsnft.com and one of the tabs down there, you can read it. But so if you have your cat, you can apply it to I think things like merch and produce it. I'm not sure if you can sell it or not. Maybe you can. You have to read the really long lawyer written document there. But basically, what non-exclusive rights means that if we were to do a game or an animated series, we can put your cat in there because we have access to all the rights of whatever. But if you want to do something, you can only use the cat that you own. But that's just a way for us to preserve the continuity of the brand, because like these are all assets that we made. So we want to have the freedom and liberty to, you know, shotgun blast all of them to the world with no limitations, because that's more conducive to, I think, spreading to the masses.
Did you guys, when you started, did you have a campaign to actively promote this thing on Twitter to get people into the Discord in the first place?
No, we're all organic. We had no like influencer, but the way that Twitter is really interesting, and it's also strange and frustrating because Twitter's been evolving in real time since like, Elon's bought it. So things change, the meta changes, but you can do giveaways of giving away an NFT, or you do an artist contest. You say who makes the best meme, or who makes the best art, or who does the best song on this thing. And then you create these like marketing opportunity campaigns, and those just like percolate like crazy because the Web3 space is pretty tiny relatively. So if you're giving away value for free, or for like, the parameters are give me 1 hour's worth of creative work from you, and you might get this asset that's worth, $50, $100, $10,000 or something. People are into that. And it doesn't hurt that they like the art that they're trying to make content for. So things like that. Yeah.
So coming back to the community, it certainly seems as if the community is at the core of the reason why Cool Cats has really taken off, right? I mean, you've got the art combined with the community, right? So the community, people are buying the art, they're loving the art, and then they're changing their profile picture, right, into the Cool Cat. Like I know one of the guys that's been on the show, Thomas Pan, he has a cool cat with an apple. That is his online Twitter profile.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, and you're encouraging people through activities and stuff to do fun stuff online with the cats, which I think is really interesting. There's this flip side that you kind of hinted to, right? Which is sometimes, there's parts of people in the community that are in there for financial reasons, right? And there's other people in there that aren't, but still have expectations.
Yeah.
So how did you guys manage all this mass amount of expectations that were coming flying at you?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of it is like level setting and being as transparent as you possibly can be along the way. And it's tough because not everyone, but a lot of people are often inclined to sort of push as hard as they can because you're behind the screen and you never meet these people and you're behind a PFP. So you might be like, how much money did you guys make? Well, like, what's your social security number? How can I track your? And it's just like, dude, like this, like what? You don't need this much information. So yeah, I think being transparent as you can be through the process, and also having a constant line of communication so like we rolled out Cool Pets which was the second drop of Cool Cats, and it had its successes. We sold out and we made this gamified interactive web portal that was built on top of Polygon. That was a whole technical undertaking and feat within of itself. However, in retrospect and hindsight, there's multiple instances and opportunities in which we could have positioned preemptively of like, hey, here's what we're planning to bring to the market. Here's what we're thinking. Like, is there the demand that we perceive there actually validated from you guys? So it's, not to say that your decisions as a business should be totally dictated by the community, but I think there's this expectation now, especially if you want to succeed in the Web3 land, is having this open line of communication of like, here's what we're thinking about doing. And you see more and more company or brands do this in the Web3 space. Of sometimes they'll do this drop that is unbeknownst to anyone, but a lot of times they'll say, hey, we're now working on this thing. And it's either well received or the community like looks at each other and is like, why are you doing that thing? And they're like, that's a good ass question. Maybe we shouldn't do that thing. So it's a healthy balance of letting the community know what you're up to and what the trajectory and what the plans are, in addition to being open to feedback along the way. So yeah.
And it's fascinating because obviously, for example, I'm a Moon Birch holder, and I've had Amanda Gadbow on the show, who's the lead community manager over there. And, they made some mistakes by not being fully transparent about what they were doing. And then they got a lot of pushback from the community, and, but they've learned their lesson, right? And now they're building more in public, trying to be more transparent, but also trying to have a layer of mystique, right? Because I think some of the best collections, and Cool Cats has recently done this with their journeys.
Oh, with the Shadow Wolves too.
You don't exactly know what's going on, but there's something exciting going on.
Yeah.
So maybe you could talk a little bit about threading the line.
So to that point, like I think like speculation is this like very wonderful, magical, rainbow enchanted word in the space, where it's ironic because some of the time it's almost as if people want to know that there is a cake being baked, but they don't want to know what it looks like. Or when it's time to give them a slice, they're like, this is it, So, but on the inverse, you don't want to just be like, soon, this thing is coming soon. It's going to change the world. It's going to change lives. It's going to, and you're just like mad ambiguous with it. You don't want to do that. I think the healthy cadence is like, we're working on this thing. Here's a couple of highlights of what's going on. And then as a brand, you can sort of synthesize like users' speculative sentiment, because sometimes you'll hint at something and then people are just like, red flag, won't like this, next thing. And you say, hey, we heard you guys. We're actually modifying the cake that we're baking, so don't worry about it. So I think it's a healthy balance of being as transparent as you possibly can about what you're incubating and what you're up to without giving away the full recipe, but also having like an ear to the street and ear on the pulse, with that helping inform you that like, is there demand for this cake that we're baking? Do we think people are going to like it? Okay, cool. Let's keep baking it. And that's like the healthy cadence you want to manage. But everyone, like, teasers and teasing what's to come is, since the dawn of time, whether it's Apple or Coca-Cola, like, they're just like, this thing's coming soon. Like, people like that. People like to have something to look forward to, and you don't want to just demystify the whole thing by saying, hey, this is coming out next week. This is exactly what it looks like. See you next week.
Yeah, I mean, the power of anticipation is
the
best marketing vehicles there is it gives people reason to like have hope that the collection is evolving, right? And there's a reason why they made this investment in the first place. So you decided to launch another project called Ghost Boy. Tell us what you decided to do differently on this project based on what you learned. And for those that are listening, Ghost, why don't you describe visually what it is for the audio podcast people? Yeah.
So Ghost Boy is a character that I came up with back in like, I don't know, end of high school, 2015, 2016. He's this amorphous gloop, sort of blue ethereal character with the face of a skull mask. And Ghost Boy is synthesized from me. I've always had a fear of death. It's just petrified me. I probably think about it 3 to 5 times a week. No living person can tell you what death is like. And it petrifies me. The concept, it just keeps me up at night. So as an artist and as a creator and as someone who loves to create, I landed on creating this character called Ghost Boy in an effort to leave a piece of me behind. So, when I die one day, I'll at least have made this thing that has a piece of me in it. So it's sort of like art is eternal, art is immortal. The thing with Ghost Boy is what's immortal can never die. I've since launched the collection on the blockchain, so he's immortalized forever. So there we go. So Ghost Boy is this character to me that represents creativity and expression in an effort to leave an impact and leave something behind from yourself, before the Grim Reaper comes knocking for us all.
So awesome. Congratulations on launching that second project. So looking into the future, given the path that you guys have been down, you were one of the earlier successful projects in the NFT world, and we're recording this almost 2 years later from when you got launched. Where do you see things going in the next few years?
Oh, just like the trajectory of like Web3 crypto land as a whole?
Yeah. What's your thoughts on kind of where you see it?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because like at the beginning of our conversation, I was saying how, back it's like back in the day, aka a year and a half ago, it's like, that's crazy. There's a handful of Solidity devs. It's not, whereas now it's this, the problem has sort of flipped itself now. There's an oversaturation of builders, but it's sort of like what should be built. And I think that we're at this strange standstill. I don't want to say standstill, but we're at this strange lull in the market right now. It's a bear market. And I also say bear market, build market. It's a great time to build. But I think we're realizing we need to, the Web3 space is tiny. It's like a high school room, a cafeteria in contrast to the entire world. Like if I go on Twitter and I'm talking my tweets, I'm just talking to other people in the Web3 space. I'm not talking to the world as a whole. So I think that where we stand right now is we need a sort of external outside source of validation and adoption. We need companies are doing great things. Nike is entered the space. Nike with Artifact. Starbucks is, I think, building something with Polygon. There's these rumblings of Amazon entering the space, which is great. But I think that we've hit this sort of like saturated pocket of we as sort of like the original OG individual incubator builders have like done as much as we can in a lot of ways. And we need these sort of like gatekeepers from Web 2, Web 2.5 being like, you know what? AMC theaters is going to be like, we airdrop everything to every movie you go to now because like that's the future. So for me, I see a world in which when you go to Target, you know, upon entering the location, there's an airdropped sort of like geo-specific coupon or digital collectible or something at that specific location. I think that's sort of the trajectory that we're going to get at is the crossover from like media being gamified in this like digital collectible way. But I think it's this sort of double-edged sword cadence of the technology is still being like built in real time. So we can't just flip a switch and be like, oh yeah, like this company is just entirely effortlessly, aimlessly, or on the blockchain now, and it's all easy. There's a lot of hurdles and there's a lot of pain points like user experience. You know, I think onboarding users and folks into Web3 has increasingly gotten easier, but nothing about it is easy. You know, you need to have your friend hold your hand and be like, come walk with me. Let me show you what's going on here. This is your seed phrase. Never, like, even my mom, I was minting Ghost Boy, I think, and she like sends me a picture of her seed phrase, and she's like, it's like, is this what I do it with? I'm like, this is not good. You know, like we got a long way to go. So I think it's infrastructure, and I think it's just general where we are with the technology. I think we have great minds fighting the good fight, but it's sort of like we're figuring it out in real time and how to apply a lot of these use cases to brands because I am like imagine the infrastructure is there tomorrow. To me, it's a no-brainer that every brand is going to be looking at digital collectibles and the tokenizations of assets and experiences as the next wave. It's just it's just obvious to me. It's like just how back in the day you bought a Frosted Flakes cereal box and they put a CD in there and it was like limited time, whatever. That was a trend that came and went. Except this day and age, everyone's on the computer, everyone's connected, everyone has all these social profiles, and these companies have the power to say, hey, let's take your account that you already have and we'll make you a custodial wallet, and now you can start collecting points or art or tokens that actually give you a discount in our ecosystem. So for me, I think once the structure is there and the infrastructure is there, it's going to be this like no-brainer technical, like everyone's going to have a wallet. And I think obfuscation is a big key as well. Like right now it's so technically crypto-centric and heavy that you have to know exactly what you're doing. Whereas, you know, how many friends do you have? If you said, explain to me how the internet works, and they just start drooling on themselves. However, these same people are on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter all day. So like they're using the internet, they're living in the internet. That's the metaverse. They're living it, but they couldn't explain to you, you know, what a protocol is or what packets are. And so I think we're at the same, that's how early we are in Web3 is like, there's so much potential. And I think once it's tapped, right, I think all these other brands are going to have this aha moment of like, oh, here's how we perpetuate user retention and reach and rewarding and stuff like that. But we're still in this, like, it's not obfuscated yet. It's still just, it's simple. Here, follow this 20-step thing and then reach out to our help support, and then good luck not getting scammed on Twitter in the process. Like, you'll figure it out.
Well, Evan Luza, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story and your insights with us. If people want to discover more about you, what's your preferred social platform? And if they want to check out Alpha Labs business, where do you want to send them?
Well, if you're new to Web3, new to Twitter, or new to NFTs, crypto Twitter is that's where the conversation happens. And just head over on Twitter. So I'm at EvanLuza on Twitter. I'm also on Instagram, but not too much crazy going on over there. And I'm also on my website, evanluza.com. If you're interested in chatting, maybe you want some advisory or strategic input on, you know, just want to chat about anything. I'm a builder, and I'm happy to collaborate and participate on all sorts of stuff. So at Alpha Labs, we're working on incubating and ideating products in Web3 land. With Ghost Boy, I'm working on scaling him to the mass markets. I'm working with the animation studio currently to try to get the story out of telling the story of Ghost Boy. But otherwise, just give me a follow on Twitter and hit the DMs.
Evan, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Michael. It's good talking to you, my man.